Early Thursday morning in Augusta, Georgia. Blustery conditions, cool temperatures for day one of the 81st Masters, where men like Nelson and Snead and Hogan and Demerit, Palmer, Player, Nicklaus, Watson, Ballesteros, Faldo, Woods, all created their legend. Who will do it this week? Today, we start to find out. It's Morning Drive on day one of the Masters now.
They say familiarity breeds contempt, but not here. Here, the more you know, the more you want. To conquer, succeed, prevail victorious. A Masters champion, it never disappoints. It's an infatuation that leaves us yearning for more. It's the most exclusive event of the season, one that only the best will attend. The Masters is here, and you're cordially invited.
Major Championship is supposed to test all of your skill. Well, today on day one of the Masters tournament, it's going to test your patience, your concentration level, and most importantly, your resolve. Very blustery conditions expected throughout the day for day one of the 81st edition of the Masters tournament. And with that, we say good morning. Gary Williams, very pleased as always to be joined by Charlie Rymer, Chris DeMarco. Gentlemen, there's nothing quite like it. You've played in major championships, and when you wake up on a morning like this, how do you feel?
Well, certainly you can feel the tension. There's no doubt about that, but there's some excitement as well. And it's that sort of that butterfly in your stomach sort of feeling that, you know, you want to have it, but at the same time, it feels a little uncomfortable as well, I think, Chris.
It does, but it is, the anticipation of it is what the greatest thing is. And just getting to have them announce your name on that first tee and play away, please, it is something you just can't make the same. It's unbelievable. The words don't even express it.
Well, we certainly know that two Masters champions will hit the ceremonial first tee shots at 7:40. Someone who will not be present, but certainly his memory will be. And yesterday, Chairman Payne had this pin on his lapel as he met the international media yesterday in advance on the eve of this Masters tournament, and all the patrons who walked through today will get these. We received these when we went through the press areas. So Mr. Palmer is not present, but believe me, his spirit certainly is.
Yes, that's one thing that's for certain. And this morning, as we get closer to that 8 o'clock tee time, there's going to be a lot of emotion here on the grounds, a lot of tears as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the news yesterday, which was unusual, is with the favorite coming into this tournament. It's the #1 player in the world, and this through David Winkle, who represents Dustin Johnson. At roughly 3 p.m. today, Dustin took a serious fall on a staircase in his Augusta rental home. He landed very hard on his lower back and is now resting, although quite uncomfortably. He went on to state, he has been advised to remain immobile and begin a regimen of anti-inflammatory medication and icing with the hope of being able to play tomorrow. I will refrain from commenting further until I know more about Dustin's condition. And with that, we are joined now as we look at his time, and he's got the last time of the day, and that is at 2:03, and that may be very advantageous, and we'll discuss that a little bit further. He's off with two-time Masters champion Bubba Watson and the man who won the last major championship in the men's game, and that is Jimmy Walker, who won the PGA at Baltusrol late last July. And now we are joined by our insiders, senior writer at Golf Digest, very happy that he has gotten up so early in the morning to kind of give us an update, and that is Tim Rosefort. Tim, good morning.
Good morning, Gary.
Tim, can you just kind of explain as specifically as you can exactly what happened?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, Gary, this wasn't like a case where he slipped and fell and went down a big stairway. It was really just 3 steps down from what I'm told, a platform, and then 3 more steps down into a garage area. It was a hardwood floor. Dustin was in socks, and some people can relate to that situation. It's easy to lose your balance and slip and fall, which is what he did. Paulina Gretzky was at the house. His fiancée, she described it as a big thud. His brother AJ was also there as well, who helped him get up and get on a couch. And that's basically how it happened.
Can you also describe, as best you can, where exactly is the pain that he is dealing with right now?
His performance coach, Joey Diovasalvi, who was also there, described it to me as the left side of his back below the ribs in an area that physios and athletes know as the QL. It's obviously very important in rotating through a golf ball, and the determination will be made later today, I'm sure, as to whether that's in a type of situation where Dustin is cleared to play.
And finally, Tim, you know, Dustin is a guy who's very low-key. He doesn't emote a great deal. But did you get an indication where he is emotionally about what he's dealing with and the prospect that he might not be able to play?
Well, he's bummed, obviously. When he came in, when Joey Diovasalvi came in through the front door, his words were, "Bro, I can't believe I did that." His manager, though, David Winkle, later in the day described him to me as a warrior, and he's going to play if at all. He's going to play no matter what the pain levels are. But he's in a situation now, Gary, where hasn't seen a doctor yet. At least he hadn't going into the evening. There's too much inflammation in that area right now. The only thing you can really do at this point is to treat it with Advil, some anti-inflammatory, some ice, and eventually some kinesio tape and some rest. And as it relates to updating the story, we'll be doing that all morning for our audience. Thanks, Gary.
Tim, I know you will. Thanks so much. That's Tim Rosenford, senior writer, Golf Digest, and obviously our insider here on Golf Channel. So Charlie and Chris, we're talking about somebody who is playing the best golf in the world. He's won in his last 3 starts. He comes in here as a prohibitive favorite, a favorite of the likes we haven't seen in some time. You can't speculate on how he feels, but this is an odd circumstance.
It certainly is an odd circumstance, and definitely golfers throughout the history of the game have had some odd injuries. I mean, in the old days, it used to be, you know, picking up a suitcase here or there. But the one real positive for DJ is he's got that last tee time. There are a lot of resources available to players with the meds. Tim went over a lot of it right there. But you can imagine if there's a specialist somewhere and you got a plane you can send to go get that specialist, bring them in. Acupuncture, acupressure, they've got this dry needling, stimulation. And there's just so many resources available, and I'm sure that this morning they'll be checking into all of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the main thing is we got to probably get an X-ray of it to make sure nothing is broken in there, and he doesn't want to make it worse than it already is. Again, this is 1 week. The worst thing you can do is go out with pain and then try to do something in your golf swing to not make it hurt. Now you're changing your golf swing and you're not doing what you normally do. So he's got to look at the long run here and the long haul. And it might be a couple weeks. We saw that happen with Rory a couple summers ago when he broke his foot kicking a soccer ball. And he had to take time off. I mean, that's the main thing, is take time off.
You say that about not going out, but great players have a way of figuring things out. 1972, Jack Nicklaus won. His back was bothering him. He hit a draw the whole week. He figured it out, still won the golf tournament.
Well, the last major Tiger Woods won, very different ailment, but he got through it in 2008. So fear the injured golfer. We'll wait and see. Now, obviously, one of the other things that we've been dealing with all week, and it's really been kind of the main storyline, and that has been the weather. And yesterday, they had to suspend play. They began the par 3 contest, but could not complete it. And that's unfortunate, certainly for the players, but also the patrons. And with that, we have changing conditions around here. As you can see, the temperatures in Augusta, Georgia have dropped significantly. It was 88 degrees on Tuesday. At 9 o'clock this morning, it's going to be about 56, topping out tonight at about 62. Most importantly, look at the consistent level of the winds coming the west out of the southwest and pretty much out of the west for the balance of the afternoon, gusting between 30 and 35 miles an hour. And here's Jim Cantore from the Weather Channel, who through social media tweeted this out: get ready for some gusty winds at the Masters for the first 2 rounds. lows, 60s for highs. So temperature, winds gusting up to 30 miles an hour. What are the most important things these players have to deal with under those conditions?
Well, you got to figure out some way to stay patient. You got to figure out a way to stay positive. You got to understand the wind's blowing on everybody, not just you. But as I look at that forecast, Chris, when you start getting wind gusts 30, 35, I even saw a 40 on the board as well. You're looking at conditions where you might have to bring the players off the golf course. The ball can't stay on the greens. You know the greens will be up to speed. That's something I know that the tournament officials will be monitoring very closely throughout the day.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, too, it's very wet. So when we had rain as early when we were going to the meeting this morning at 3:30, it was still raining outside. So the course is going to be very wet. You're going to get some mud balls, and then you add the wind and those mud balls, the balls are going to be all over the place. So the players are really going to have to be careful about where they miss their shots into the green and give themselves some good pitches to those back pins or wherever the pins are so that they can not afford to make double bogeys. They're going to be abundant today, double bogeys.
You know, what's interesting is they are blessed to have the sub-air technology to take the moisture out of these green complexes. But, Charlie, when winds are gusting up to 40 miles an hour, the committee, and they're very careful. They want this to be as fair as possible, but it's a very fine line taking moisture out with winds gusting as high as 40 miles an hour.
They have all the tools in the toolbox. They've got a tremendous amount of, obviously, expertise and a lot of data from years past as well. The other thing that you can expect are very, very slow rounds. Sunset. You can play golf maybe to 7:30 if you're lucky, but the rounds are going to be very slow. If for no other reason, all the debris that's going to get blown up onto the greens, a lot of pollen, a lot of material coming out of trees and plants this time of year, and so players are going to have to be cleaning their line. That's going to add a tremendous amount of time to the round today.
Chris, when you see southwest to westerly winds 25 miles an hour, is there any part of the golf course that sticks out to you that's going to be maybe the most challenging?
Well, I mean, right out of the gate, that first hole is right into the wind. So you're talking a 460-yard uphill hole. It's going to be a 25-mile-an-hour wind. It's going to play like 520, 530 yards. So, getting up to a good start, 2 and 3 are normally okay, but every hole out there is going to have its challenges, especially with the greens and the speed of them. If I'm a player right now, I'm expecting those winds. I'm going, I want to see a couple balls roll. And maybe they'll take us off the golf course and we won't have to go out in those conditions and maybe go out in better conditions because it is going to be brutally tough out there.
But think of all the roll you're going to get off the tee,
yeah,
especially
right.
Number one, landing at that slope right there with the grain coming back towards you, a wet fairway. It'll be a long, long golf course.
It certainly will be. The genius of this design and the routing, they're going to experience into certainly down and also crosswinds as well. All right, we've got a lot to do from here over the next 2 hours, but for now, let's say good morning back in our studios to Damon Hack. D, how are you?
Gentlemen, good morning. Great to see you. Great to be with Carl Robinson and John Cook. The 81st Masters begins today. To so many people, Augusta National is like a great painting. That painting will have water on it, and it'll have wind on it. What should the players expect today, Cook?
Boy, a lot of fun. Sounds like a lot of fun today. But yeah, it's just going to be interesting. It's a day of survival. It's a day of just trying to be efficient, trying to just minimize your mistakes, eliminate the double bogeys. You're going to make some bogeys. Just be efficient around the greens. You got to have patience. It's easy to say. It's tough to do. The rounds will be excruciatingly long. It's going to take 5.5 plus hours today. It's just because you can't go up and just tap in putts. You're going to have 3 and 4 footers. You're going to have debris in your line. The wind's going to be blowing. It's just going to be a very, very tough day, survival day.
The one thing that Charlie mentioned resonates with me. It is the same for everyone. We just saw the weather forecast. The wind is looking like it's going to blow pretty much evenly throughout the entire day. That is a mental attitude you've got to keep because it's just not you in this situation. All 95 of these players are dealing with this situation. Another thing that Gary Williams touched on, of course, the setup of the golf course, and there needs to be a bit of care taken perhaps today, like Colin Montgomery also said on Live from the Masters last night, not to be too tricky with these greens.
Right.
But we could be in a situation with soggy fairways and dry, kind of fastish greens. How do you deal with that contrast?
Yeah, it's the committee has the power, and they have they have everything, all the tools, like Charlie says, all the tools in the toolbox to, to create the conditions. And they won't make it too difficult because the greens can get away from them easily with the wind blowing, the sun shining. They can moderate how much moisture is on the greens and how fast they can get the greens. So the committee won't let the golf course get away from them. It's Thursday. They got to get everybody around. They don't want the conditions to be so bizarre that that's all they're talking about is how crazy it was. They want good golf shots to be rewarded. They want poor golf shots to to be challenging where you hit the golf ball. So that's what you look for today is just survival. Just be efficient around the greens, and just take care of your business today and move on tomorrow.
Even par, a good score today?
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Even par would be a phenomenal score.
Great score.
Anything 75 or better today, I think, would be very acceptable.
Well, the last time a winner over par was 2007. It was Zach Johnson, and you're talking about survival and efficiency. Who has more of those skills and that skill set than Zach Johnson, the 2007 Masters champ? I've spent a lot of time talking to his coach, Mike Bender, over the last couple of years about why he's so good in difficult conditions. He says he doesn't beat himself, first of all. He has a tremendous short game, and he has the mental toughness and tenacity to not be afraid of anything thrown his way. Do you see similar qualities in him?
Yeah, and this golf course will be a big golf course for him, but if he's efficient on the par 3s and he's efficient on the par 4s, he doesn't get anything crazy. He does have that wedge game to attack the 5s. That's what he did when he won. He never went for a green in 2 on the par 5s. He played them, way under par.
He laid up on all four days.
And so
11 under. He's 11 under
that's
par.
His strategy. That's the way he works. He goes from point A to point B. He's got a great caddy, Damon Green, on the bag. That will really help on days like this because they know where to go on the golf course. They understand. They've got a lot of knowledge around the golf course, and that's Zach Johnson's game. He's a veteran. He's gritty. He's tough. And he's mentally prepared for days like this.
Just one thing I would say, whilst it is the 10-year anniversary of that victory for Zach Johnson, you do have to think a little bit about these players who will play better in bad conditions. Frank Novello spoke about a lot of the Europeans on Live from the Masters last night, but you look at Americans. Dustin Johnson, should he get out today? I think back to the Open in 2011 at Royal St. George's. It blew. He finished tied for 2nd then. Ricky Fowler finished tied for 5th that year. There are some Americans that can really handle these conditions.
A lot of players may be shaking in their boots this morning, but a lot of them may be smiling at the difficult conditions they'll face. We're just getting started. Let's say good morning to Lauren Thompson. She has the tee sheet. What's up, LT?
Good morning, Damon, Cara, and Cookie. Good morning to everyone at home as well. We're going to keep you updated with the latest on the weather as well as the field. And yes, that news yesterday from the world #1 Dustin Johnson. But moving into our first hour tee sheet, a lot of eyes are going to be tuned in for the 81st Masters. But what did that sunny scenery provide in the early years of television to those watching around the world, and how that attention paved the path for many of your favorite players in a slew of world #1s? We're going to get to that later this morning. And from those across the pond to the Georgia native who co-designed Augusta National itself, we're going to catch up with the grandson of Bobby Jones, who will share why the Masters was initially an uncomfortable afterthought early in the mind of his World Golf Hall of Famer family member. Then we're going to cruise down memory lane with a man from Augusta, one who made a Masters win happen, the 1987 champion Larry Mize. He's going to join our crew on the scene and open up on the Amen Corner effect, as well as the blast from the past photo he was able to capture with his own son this year. Because Damon, he also has thoughts on parts of the course he says people forget about.
Well, I'll tell you something, LT. Nobody forgets hole number 15, that gorgeous and decisive par 5 on the second 9. What kind of impact will wind have there and elsewhere on the golf course? Morning Drive just getting started from Augusta National and Studio AP. We are back after this.